Good morning, everybody. I'm here today to introduce the two finalists for the police chief position and to give them an opportunity to take some questions from you. We have two candidates today. We have Joel Fitzgerald, who's the police chief with the City of Allentown, Pennsylvania. And then we have Terry Moses, who's the executive director of safety services for the Wichita Public Schools. I've asked them to make a few introductory comments for you, and then from there to field any questions that you have for them. And a reminder, you'll also have an opportunity to visit with them this evening after the public forum. So with that, I'll turn it over to Chief Fitzgerald first.
Good morning. It's a pleasure to be here and a pleasure to have been asked to participate in the Wichita Police Chief search. This is truly an honor. I've had the opportunity to meet some citizens from here in Wichita. I've also had the opportunity to meet many of the police officers. This is a proud agency and will be a pleasure to serve. The community is very, very much into what the police department is doing and building the trust that's necessary to move this agency and this community forward. I think that given the opportunity, that we'll make tremendous strides with the Wichita Police Department and with members of the community here. I'd really love to open it up to questions, but before I do, I'd just like to make another statement, and that's, it's very hard when you're leaving a place like the City of Allentown that's been supportive for the years that I've been there, just like it was hard to leave the city of Missouri City. But moving on to a place like Wichita and being able to be someone who is a finalist and is considered for this position is a tremendous experience and tremendous opportunity. With that being said, it's not something that I take lightly. I will be dedicated to this agency and to this community. I'll be very visible and transparent, accessible, and someone who's easy to talk to and will be a very active member of the community. So I'll open it up to questions.
Chief Fitzgerald, obviously one big change that we're anticipating into the coming years are adding body cameras to our department. That's been a huge talker for the last year. Can you talk about your experience, one, with cameras in particular, and two, your thoughts taking on a role like this and knowing that change in particular?
Sure. In the state of Texas, I was exposed to audio and video cameras in the police cars. I'm a big believer in that. As far as it goes to protect the citizen, but protect the officer as well. Programs that have audio and video in police cars, first and foremost, have proven to reduce many of the complaints that you see in regards to racial profiling. And to move forward with the body camera program is only a natural segue. The public's expectation now is that a body camera program is something that most agencies are either developing or implementing at this time. The City of Allentown, we've gone from a testing phase to now the purchasing phase of a body camera for officers in that department, and I can tell you that it's something that I would move forward with here in the City of Wichita. I knew that was part of the assessment, and I knew that that's been considered in the budget. It's something that's necessary, and it's something that citizens will expect to have at their disposal, and officers will expect to have at theirs as well.
And Chief, as far as officer-involved shootings, we've had some here, I mean, they're all over the country. How would you handle that if there was one here, as far as being transparent, talking about it openly, that sort of thing?
That has to start with conversations with the FOP. Transparency in its very essence is being able to provide whatever information we can about that shooting incident. Now, we have an investigative responsibility to really preserve the integrity of what's going to be presented at the district attorney's office level as well. So that'll be a conversation that I have, again, with the DA's office to decide what information at that point, we can release for public consumption, because there's obviously tremendous amount of media interest when a police officer is involved in a shooting. But also, when I say with the FOP, what's going on around the country now is that some police departments are releasing names of police officers that are involved in shootings. Some states don't have the opportunity or don't have the availability of protecting officers' home addresses and other information that may place them in a position of danger as well. So there's a careful balance that you have to strike between a public's right to know how much we can give pursuant to any particular investigation and what we're doing as an organization to be transparent. I will work very hard to give as much information as I can, and as much information as we'll decide as an organization in conjunction with the DA's office that's necessary to provide the public safety, enhance public safety, I should say.
And can you talk, have you had any disciplinary problems in your history as a police officer, police chief, that sort of thing in your history?
No, there's nothing that would prohibit me from being a police chief. There's nothing that would prohibit me from testifying in court. I've testified thousands of times in court. Being a narcotics officer in the city of Philadelphia, we testified a heck of a lot, perhaps 4 or 5 times a day on a Monday through Friday. We go to court a lot, and we're relied on to prosecute cases, and that's never been a problem for me, and I don't anticipate it ever being.
In your in Allentown, your force is much smaller than it is here. Any concerns about taking over a larger police department?
Not at all. Having come from the City of Philadelphia Police Department, I've had the opportunity to work in one of the largest departments in the country and manage a lot of people with a lot of different personalities, working under a FOP contract and adhering to the tenets of both contract and the mission and vision of the organization. That doesn't change. It may change in scale, but it doesn't change in the mission and making the mission happen. And part of that's being a participative manager and going out into the ranks and having them have a clear understanding of what you're trying to accomplish as both police chief and as the organization. So when you're able to do that, that transcends the size of the agency. When you're able to meet people at their level and be inclusive and give them some say and stake in what we're doing as an organization, you will obviously gain a little more support for what you're trying to accomplish. I can tell you that can be done at every level, whether it be a department of 6,000 or a department of over 800 employees.
Chief, talking about Allentown, one concern that I've heard from folks on the department, both retired and whatnot, is that being there only a year. I know when you started, there was an indication that you would stay. I think there's even a quote that you would stay as long as needed. And it's only been a year, and for some that's been a concern just because a change happens. And
Sure.
obviously we're looking for a chief that's going to be here longer than that. Can you address that concern and kind of talk about that a little bit?
It's actually a year and a half. But
Well,
I can tell you that City of Allentown has been great. Right now, the City of Allentown is going through some upheaval with the city and the mayor's office. I'm very supportive of what Allentown is doing as a city. It's a city that's resurgent, but I've also been supportive of the mayor and city council there. I'm an at-will employee. I work at the pleasure of the mayor, and one of the things I looked at when this opportunity presented itself was the opportunity to go somewhere where a police chief had been for a long period of time, and a place where I could settle, I could bring my family and be very happy. I'm not saying that I'm not happy in Allentown. I'm certainly not saying that I couldn't be. I am saying, however, that I don't have the same level of security that I would have here in Wichita, and that's important to me. It's also important professionally to develop to a point in my career where I think obviously I can be effective, and moving on to an agency of this size is something that I've worked towards, and this opportunity presented itself and I took it.
Can you also address too, we've obviously lost one candidate to another position. Are you also looking in other cities right now? Are there other jobs that you may be up for that are also being considered as you consider?
There are, but I would not be able to answer which cities in respect to that process,
No.
or their
Okay.
process.
Chief, when you talked about more security here, can you talk a little bit more about that? What do you mean as far as Allentown? You don't feel as secure?
Well, I'm not saying that I don't feel as secure. What I am saying is that you look at the history of police chiefs in this organization, you look at the longevity that they've spent here, and making that assessment, obviously there has been a commitment to the person that's been in charge of this organization. And with that commitment, from an outsider's perspective looking in, I'd be remiss if I didn't consider that as one of the deciding factors as to where I'd like to work in the future. So given the history of how long police chiefs have served here, the recent history of Chief Williams' service, I saw it as really a no-brainer.
And can you talk a little bit about the incident with your son? I know that's come up in the media.
No, not at all. That doesn't even deserve my time. My son's a great kid. He was involved in a really unfortunate situation, and he was acquitted. there's nothing else for me to talk about. He's a 23-year-old man, and he makes me very proud every day.
You've obviously looked at our community a little bit. What are some highlights? What are you looking forward to, or what do you see as Wichita having that you are really interested in, both as a community and as this position?
Well, you talk about the city of Wichita, and you have to, look at the fact that there is economic resurgence here. This is a city on the upswing, much like Allentown in scale. Allentown's on an upswing as well, but Wichita on a larger scale. Being able to take the helm of a police department of this size and be able to lead it into the future is something that any police chief would seize the opportunity for. Challenge is one thing, but also, a combination of challenge, security, a great city manager, and, helpful city council people that are involved and truly care about the community and are willing to work with you, alongside you. The feeling I get when I've met the police officers here is one of, an all-in mentality. They're totally willing to do what it takes to take the department forward and to help the city move forward. And again, it gives me a really good feeling about this position. It gives me a really good feeling about where the agency is going and where the city is going. So if that's any indication as to what to expect here in the city of Wichita, I think I made a very good choice in applying here.
Any specific changes or concerns about the police department here that you see need to be addressed?
And speaking with some of the police officers and the police supervisors, I know we need to look at some of the training aspects of what we do as an agency. I know some of their concerns are facilities, the accessibility to training, some programs that we have going here in the city of Wichita. And quite frankly, I don't want to give away everything that I'll talk about later on this evening, because I'm sure I'll get questions to that effect. But I believe in being inclusive and giving the police officers a seat at the table. If you're not listening to everyone at every level of the organization in order to determine the path for your agency to develop that mission, the vision, the values, and the guiding principles you live by, and set goals for the agency in a collective environment, if I'm not listening, I'm certainly not doing the job that I'm sure the city manager would hire me for. And that will be the only way that we move forward as an organization from this point forward, is having an inclusive environment where everyone has some say, and me as the ultimate person that's at the leadership table, so to speak, is structuring the organization to move forward with everyone's input.
Joel, you said that you're telling us that you're not on a Brady Giglio list.
No.
So, have you ever been reprimanded within the confines of your job, moving up through the ranks? Have there been times that you've been reprimanded? Could you talk about any of those? It's part of doing the job.
Part of doing the job is having auto accidents. I've had an auto accident or two, but nothing outside of that.
Okay. Now, you said that there are some other jobs that you are considering, more than one, outside of this, that you say you'd rather not talk about it, correct?
I said out of respect to whatever processes I'm in, I wouldn't.
Agreed. I guess the question would be, are you all in on this job?
Absolutely. Absolutely. That's why I'm here. This is the city of Wichita's process. Happened first. They talked to me first, and I'm here. I'm a finalist for this position. If I'm offered the position, I'm certainly going to take the position.
When it comes to a relationship with deputy chiefs, what's kind of the first thought for you when you talk to people about processes, from body cameras to shootings to anything? What's your protocol?
When it comes to deputy chiefs,
Yes.
well, they're critical to the organization. They're people that can serve as filters for what goes on, or they're people that can open up the lines of communication to the rest of the police department. Although I expect to be someone that's accessible by the entire agency and to be able to speak to everyone in every part of the agency, your deputy chiefs are going to be critical to the success of what you're doing as an organization. They'll have goals that they need to attain. They'll have different critical components of what we're doing as the agency that they're responsible for. So, it's going to be important that as deputy chiefs, we meet and we talk and we're on the same page as to what we want to accomplish, with not only from an organizational standpoint, but being able to get along from a personal standpoint.
We have time for one more question.
Heading into the forum tonight, have you ever been through a setting or like that on a job interview?
I have. The city of Allentown had a similar setup.
And do you like it? I mean, it's just a great way to kind of get to know some of the people that you'll be running into.
I can tell you I'm entirely comfortable answering questions. I feel like you give the public and members of the media an opportunity to get to know you and to, ask some tough questions, to ask some uncomfortable questions if you might have. But, I think it's important that they see you as a human being. The humanistic bent is sort of a perspective that, sometimes we miss on as police leadership. And, given this open exchange of questions and, really forthright answers that we can give, I'm sure Chief Moses will give you the same. We welcome the opportunity to get to know people in this community. She's had the benefit of being here for 30 years. I haven't. So, you'll get to learn a lot more about her. You'll get to learn a lot about me. And, hopefully the public will see who or what we are as people and as leaders. I anticipate it being a great process at this point forward, and I'm very happy to have been here and happy to have been included in this press conference. Thank you.
And thank you for taking a second last question. Now we have Terry Moses.
Good morning. I'm Terry Moses, currently serving as Executive Director of Safety Services for US 2259 Wichita Public Schools. I'm going to start backwards. I've had the opportunity in the last 2 years to see the potential that we have in the city of Wichita, working daily with the kids and the teachers that are within our school. I had great faith in our future, but I have even greater faith in our future now after I work with these young people. They have so much to offer. They have so much passion. They have so much knowledge. And more than anything, they have so much energy to bring to this community. So it's been a great opportunity for me for the last 2 years to step out of policing and to go into something that's still very public service related, but very community related also in working with Wichita Public Schools. Prior to that, I think most of you know, I spent 32 years with the Wichita Police Department, built this room that we're standing in. I had the opportunity for 32 years to work throughout the entire city. I've worked every shift. I've worked in every division. I joke that the only things I haven't done with the Wichita Police Department are fly the helicopter and ride a motorcycle, and I'm not going to do either one of those. I will fly in the helicopter, but I won't fly it. Anyway, I bring to you a history and a background, but I also bring to you forward thinking. I've seen what we can do when we can work together. I've seen what the city can do when it works together. I've been in situations like the Hayesville tornado where I've seen what this community can do when it brings itself together. I've had the opportunity to work some horrific crime scenes, and I've seen the community surround the people and surround the victims and support them. And I know that we have the ability to work together to make this a great community. So I'll take any questions you have.
Chief, have you seen any changes, anything you want to do specifically to make this department better that you can talk a little bit about?
I think we really have to focus on the us. And this is nationwide in policing, not just here. Nothing against you in the media, but the media has very much added to the us versus them mentality of policing lately. And I think we have to get back to where we're a community, we are us. I give those examples of the tornado. I give the examples of some pretty horrific crimes that have happened in this community. And I've seen the value of us. I've seen that what we can do when we pull together to work together as one. So I think the first thing we really have to do is focus on us rather than looking at divides, how we can bring people together. History shows that when we work together, we can do some great things. And the city of Wichita is a prime example of that.
Does that us include the community in the sense that I know some of the people pushing for body cameras on police have also been pushing for community oversight boards? Is that a policy you support?
Absolutely. The cameras on police, I've been a part of that since we started over 20 years ago. We first put cameras in cars. We realized they really lacked the capability in an urban setting. Research shows only about 30% of what an officer does in front of a car in an urban setting, so we limited those to traffic. But 4 years ago, we started a pilot to put body cameras on police officers, and that was very successful. Like every new piece of technology, we had some ups and downs. We had some things that worked, some things that didn't work. But it gave us a basis, so we had a head start when there was this community push for body cameras department-wide. And as far as oversight boards, I've worked with several oversight boards over the years. The existing City Managers Review Board, the Racial Profiling Review Board was one that I was involved in creating. I wrote the policy about how we put it together. I was the one that worked with the people to first establish that board. So I will continue that policy of working on those two issues.
Can you also talk about the us versus them? I know there was an assessment that went around where it seemed, and I've talked to some officers, that they're worried they wanted an outside voice to come in. We've had a lot of internal stuff, and people are ready for a change that way. Clearly, you're not in the position right now, but you have a long history with the department. Can you address that concern that has come up a little bit in terms of being someone who's familiar with the system?
I think you encapsulated it absolutely fairly well. We don't work well when we don't work together. We work well when we work together. And that includes everybody, from the civilian members of the department to the represented members of the department to the FOP, with the community. When we looked at the first rise of community policing, we did it a little bit on an unorthodox manner here in Wichita. We put community policing officers in one community, and that act just took off and was a fantastic success. Trying to replicate that was hard because it took a lot of staffing and a lot of manpower. But again, what we found out about that was we work best when we work together. And we have to get to where we can work together. You know, you hear all the time with legislation, it's a messy process. People have different ideas, but we all have one goal, and that is to make Wichita a success. And if we focus on that one goal of making Wichita a success, we can get there. We just have to work through our competing ideas, somebody may come up with a totally different idea. It may work, but we have to be open to the idea that we have one goal, making Wichita a success.
Terry, when it comes to internal workings, how are you with discipline and things like, say, if an officer came to you with a friend of theirs that got a ticket and they wanted to make that ticket go away, how would you approach something like that?
I'll take that two different questions. The ticket go away? No. I'm sorry, but I don't do that. I was, like I said, a deputy chief here for a long time, had a lot of people come to me to make tickets go away. We have a system. If you want to take it to court, take it to court. We'll run through that. In terms of discipline, I firmly believe in being a coach and a mentor first. People make mistakes. People will make little mistakes. Traffic accidents, done it, been there, done that. People make little mistakes in reporting, maybe evidence collection, those kind of things. If we can coach and mentor those people and teach them just like we do our young people in schools, they're going to be much better. If we take the iron fist and say, hey, we have to sternly discipline everybody every time somebody makes a minor mistake, that again gets us into this us versus them mentality with the working people and the administration. You get this, hey, there's a difference between the two of us. So in terms of discipline, I'm always in favor of coaching and mentoring. Let's learn from our mistakes. Let's don't do them again. Let's see how we respond from a mistake rather than focusing on the discipline for a mistake.
If you've got a son that's on the force, how do you stay away from him, so to speak?
How do I stay away from him? The same way that I have with my sons for a long time. I hold my sons very, very accountable to what they do, and they will be accountable for what they do.
Terry, do you have bradycardia issues?
I've wrecked a couple police cars, unfortunately.
That doesn't count.
It was a tombstone. It's a bad thing. And I had a situation where a prisoner escaped under my custody. Those are the only discipline issues I've had.
What was your relationship with the other deputy chiefs at the time and your relationship with our former chief that you worked under?
I think I've had great relationships with a vast majority of people on this department. I enjoy what I call functional conflict, and that is part of running a police department. If you can't have a good conversation about what's best for this community, then you're not doing what's best for this community. You're going to have differing opinions about what works and what doesn't work, but if not everybody in the room, and I can tell you in this very room, we've had some pretty good conversations about what works for this community and what won't work for this community. That's what I want from anybody who works for me, is the freedom to walk in my office and say, hey, we need to look at this differently. We need to look at different ways of doing things. Because we've seen in the history of the Wichita Police Department and the history of policing nationwide, it's people who step out and willing to be risk takers that are going to bring about change. And those are the people that you want understaffed.
Are you bringing change? You've been on the force a long time. Do you offer that change?
I think I do. I think I have through 32 years. You can see a lot of things that I've done in my history that have brought about change, and I think I'm all about let's move forward. I joke, and it is a joke, but if we didn't have change, we'd still be answering calls from call boxes on Douglas Street in Wichita, Kansas. Change is a part of policing. Technology change is a part of policing. How we deal with, how we communicate with people is a part of policing. And I think our department understands that. I know the FOP understands that. We have to move forward. We'll get lost if we don't.
Two things I'd like you to answer both sides, please.
Yes.
What have you done well? What have you done well at 259 and learned, and what mistakes have you made at 259?
What have I done well? Team. One of the things that I really focus on is team. When you look at the enhancements that we've done in regards to physical security as well as the enhancements we've done in regards to training, it's not me alone. It's a group of people out there that happen to work very well together. We have those open, frank, honest conversations. Run, hide, fight's a prime example. A lot of people didn't want to go to that fight portion of run and hide. There's a lot of schools that focus on evacuation and lockdown only. We had those frank conversations about the fact that you have to add the side of fight. But that's done as a team. That's not done as me individually. What have I not done well? Is not enough. It's just not enough time. There's a lot of kids out there that need a lot of support. They're great. They're passionate. They're wonderful young kids. But they need a lot of help. Kids are young. They make mistakes. We need to improve the way we work with them constantly. The school district is doing that through a variety of things. The multi-tier support systems that are in place, those kind of things to help kids work through the issues of how do you problem solve? How do you say you're sorry? Instead of getting angry, I was in an elementary school just Friday, and a young man walked in the door and said, I bitted him. It was a kindergarten student. He had no idea that biting another student was not appropriate behavior. And through a coaching and mentoring philosophy, I watched the principal and the teachers walk through, and these two young kindergarten kids walked out shaking hands. And you could tell they were friends. They just didn't have any idea how to problem solve.
You applied for this job before. Talk about why you want it.
I have had, I think, a very good career. I've had a lot of mentors who've worked with me throughout my history. I came here in 1978 because Wichita State was the only university in the state of Kansas that had a criminal justice program. That's because of the relationship that it had with the Wichita Police Department. It was a progressive school. As I went through my college, I was constantly motivated by people to challenge myself and do better. Take a risk, do more, do more, do more. And I think I can do more. I'm doing this because I think we can move this department further. I think we can build on our successes, we can build on our weaknesses, and we can make this community stronger.
The department hasn't had a female head before. Are they not doing enough to encourage female leadership?
I think that females in policing, it's a difficult issue. It's one that I've been involved in. I was a member of the National Center for Women in Policing for years, and I just looked at the statistics nationwide. The statistics for women in law enforcement is 12%. The Wichita Police Department is 12%. I remember several years ago when we got above 10, and I wanted to have this major party because we kind of finally got in double figures. We did through the late 80s, early 90s, kind of see a little bit of progression of getting women into non-traditional roles, and we saw a little bit of surge, but it's kind of died off. It still bothers me. I go out and talk to people, and not that long ago I was talking to a Girl Scout group, and a woman grabbed me afterwards and said, how dare you talk to young women about a job like policing? So that stigma is still out there. That negative is still out there that policing is not a good job for women. We've got to work internally, we've got to work with the media to make sure people know that women are a very, very valuable part of policing.
We have time for one more question.
Terry, I was going to ask you, just this weekend, the deputy being shot down in Houston and some of the other shootings around the country, how important is it to keep officers safe? And do you have any plans or any ideas on different ways to do that?
It's just like the change. You constantly have to look at what do you have in regards to safety practices, safety equipment, but at the same time, the essence of all of this, and it appears that the essence of this incident as well, is this us versus them mentality. So we need to do, on one end, making sure that through the training we provide, the equipment we provide, that our officers are as safe as possible. But just like we talk about all the time with prevention, the real key to this lies on the front end, and that lies on us working together with our community.
Quick question, don't think it'll take long. Okay, we'll take that last question. Thank you. And listen, you were on the force, what, 32 years, I guess?
Yes, sir.
Would you be willing to open up your records and show people the job you've done? Would you be willing to make that public?
I would be, but I will let the lawyers and management decide if that's appropriate.
All right, just a real quick reminder, public forum tonight from 6:30 to 9 o'clock at Century 2. Hope we have a good attendance. We have a lot of questions that have come in advance, and so we'll try to ask as many of those as possible, plus take questions from the floor. Thank you so much.